Hey YouTube, it is League Turnover today. Two options: a Great League, which is unfortunately just a limited fantasy cup, only Dragon, Steel, and Fairy, or the Open Great League. So the Open Great League does have some new Pokemon. This is funny. Not funny, but I'm gonna look at the top 20 Pokemon, and only one Pokemon top 20 is a new Pokemon. And even on this list, it doesn't have Dragon Tail, but it doesn't have Thunderfang. It has Dragon Tail on Steelix, but I am putting together what you're going to see is a bunch of teams with the new Pokemon or buff Pokemon and their new moves or buff moves. So Steelix, as you're going to see on the team, has Thunderfang. I'll go over that in a second here. But for the most part, the teams have not changed. Actually, my first team does have Primeape on it. Let's just go in order here. How did Gastrodon jump to number 2? Holy smokes. Okay, so let's just start with the ones that have not changed for the last 7 seasons. Feraligatr, Zygarde, Giratina, Registeel, Cobalion. Regirock's always been on the top. Cresselia, Licky has kind of become a decent safe swap. So those Pokemon have been in the top 20 forever. And it's always comes down to they have bulk and fantastic charge moves, or both. Right? Shadow Claw, Hydro Cannon on Feraligatr makes it super strong. Zygarde just has an insane bulk stat. Giratina is bulky and spammy. Registeel has lock on one of the fastest charging fast moves in the game with 2 nukes. Cobalion, legendary, when it got Sacred Sword, it became super strong. Regirock is, again, Registeel is better, but if you don't have Registeel, Regirock don't need as many XLs, don't need XLs at all, actually, and it still gives you that same sort of idea with it. Crest, super bulky and spammy with the Grass Knots and coverage with the Moonblast, right? So these are Pokemon that have been around forever. And then there's some that have come up in the last couple seasons. Anyways, Clefable, once it got Swift, came up here. Gastrodon, with buffed Mudslap, it jumped to the top 25 last season. I don't remember it being number 2, and it kind of confuses me to a certain extent why it's at number 2. I get it, it's an XL, it's bulky, there's a bunch of steals in this. You can see Registeel, Cobalion, Steelix, and Drapion as a poison. I think that's my guess, because the pvpoke rankings are based on how you fare against the top meta Pokemon. And as you can see, you got super effective against Registeel, super effective against Cobalion, super effective against Weezing, super effective against Drapion, super effective against Steelix, all as poisons and steals, and you're super effective against Regirock and Aurorus because you're super effective against Rock as well. So it makes sense when you have so many super effective moves against the top 20 Pokemon. That's why it's up to number 2. And as you can see on this list, no grass, right? It's only got one. It's a mud boy, so it's only got one weakness, and that is grass. And there is not one in the top 20. I do have Virizion on one of my teams, but that is my guess. That is why it's so highly ranked, because no real grass in this meta and insane matchups against the top 20 Pokemon. Primeape, once it got Rage Fist last season, it just auto bumped up to the top here. Glaring Weezing was a go-to safe swap for a while. Drapion, once it got Poison Sting buff. So it's a lot of Pokemon that got buffed or new moves. And then it's a couple others, Malamar with the new Psywave. And that's Aurorus, I guess Licky with the buff rollout, Florges. These are always 20 to 30 Pokemon, just because it has play against most of the meta. But for the most part, they're just okay. You see them sometimes, not a ton though. So this is basically the meta. On this list you have here basically how I would play this. Feraligatr, Giratina, Drapion, Weezing, Cresselia, Licky. Holy safe swaps. It's always been great. Ultra League is always so good with safe swaps. So those 6 are basically your safe swaps, how I'd run them. And then you got your glass cannons here in Primeape. So Primeape's a little glassy. Aurorus is a little Drapion. Drapion is a safe swap, but it's kind of a little glassy. And then you got a lot of bulk on the other end there. So that's the top list, but we're not talking about the top list today. We're talking about buff Pokemon or new Pokemon. So this is kind of from 2 seasons ago. I call this my all safe team, essentially. Primeape, Licky Licky, Cresselia, and you can see on this list, Licky Licky has some of the hardest ones against fighters, in particular fighters that resist the rollout, Pangoro and Cobalion. But outside of that, that's your only hard loss out of the top meta here, and it's just because Primeape is insanely spammy and the Rage Fist coverage is really good. You got enough bulk on Licky Licky and Cress and enough coverage on their movesets and spamminess with your moves that even in bad matchups you can chip a lot. So if you want a team where it's like a very obvious strategy, use 2 shields on Primeape, Licky Licky and Cress in the back to basically absorb damage, right? So you can, depending on what the lead is, you can close combat a nuke, you can just Rage Fist buff and just keep buffing up. Yeah, you can play a ton of ways with Primeape, and then you have two Cress and Licky Licky, 2 safe swaps in the back with bulk, which you can either use them as shields, try and grab shields, try and flip switch. So options with that. So basically this is the all sort of safe team if you're just looking for kind of ease of playability. But let's look at some buffed or new move Pokemon. So yes, Dragon Tail is the recommended moveset, but I put in Thunderfang here. And I actually did an analysis. I'm like, what's the difference? And there was very few differences. So I think Thunderfang and Dragon Tail both have play. Obviously with like Giratina and Zygarde on the top 5 here, you would prefer to have Dragon Tail. However, there's also Feraligatr. There's also Cobalion, which would resist the Dragon Tail. There's also Weezing that would resist the Dragon Tail that you now hit neutral with Thunderfang. So there's a lot of that Thunderfang does have play against. So, you know, you got Steelix with Thunderfang. If you're going to have Thunderfang, you're going to have problems against ground type Pokemon. So how to deal with a ground type Pokemon? A water type Pokemon and a flying type Pokemon. So water, as in Feraligatr, your go-to safe swap on this team. And then Talonflame in the back as your flyer. You are double weak to water. Steelix and Talonflame are double weak to water. But again, if you're running Thunderfang, the only thing you need to worry about is your Mud Boy. And if you have like a Mud Boy, you're probably okay-ish with Talonflame just to go fly. Team number 3. Gliscor now gets Sand Attack. And Gliscor is another one where it's interesting. So you are double weak to ice. There's your first con. Because you're flying and ground, so you're double weak to ice. So I covered that ice weakness with 2 things. I covered it with Tentacruel as a water and Pangoro as a fighter. So that's how I covered the ice weaknesses. You also are going to have problems to a certain extent with some flyers. Now, not that Pangoro deals with flyers. Tentacruel can deal with most flyers because there's only a couple flyers in this meta right now, right? Because Wing Attack got nerfed, so that kind of took out Pidgeot and stuff like that. But Tentacruel can deal with Talonflame. You know, there's Galarian Moltres here, but if it's Galarian Moltres, Pangoro has a great matchup there. So I'm not as worried about the flyer. Why Gliscor is not as good against flyers, because it really relies on it's now a ground fast move, and one of its main moves is like an Earthquake ground charge move. So you can only do like Aerial Ace. So that's not going to add up on the flyers enough. So spammy though, tons of coverage outside of those. So I would basically almost stay in with anything except for like ice. I think ice is probably one of the only things I would leave. You can get by on flyer. You'll lose the flyers, but you can get by, and I wouldn't want to like come Tentacruel and then get punished and then only have Pangoro in for it. So basically with that team's like staying against ice and leave otherwise. Speaking about double weak to ice, Stunfisk Giratina here. But I wasn't really... Well, you are double weak to ice and double weak to ground on this team. Aurorus is also weak to ground, but Aurorus is half ice, which you hit super effective against ground, so it's kind of a wash. Anyways, Thundershock buff. Stunfisk has now jumped into like the top 40 for some reason in the Ultra League. Man, this thing already hits so... If you watch my Beyond the Hype on this, I think it is one of the 2 usable Pokemon in Ultra League as an electric. And it is, I think, one of the highest ranked Ultra League in Ultra League, electric in Ultra League. And that is because it's just so spammy. So Thundershock buffed and Discharge and Mud Bomb come so quick, like 5s and 4s. So you're looking at a 10 turns worth of energy, or sometimes 8 turns worth of energy just to get to a move. So it's really spammy. However, in the Great League, it took like 4 mud bombs to take out a Dunsparce. And you're probably looking to like 5+ mud bombs and discharges to take out some of these XL Pokemon here. So it's going to be very spammy, but man, it does not hit really hard. So weak to ground, weak to grass. Giratina is the main one to deal with the grass. And then ground, you kind of can deal with it, sort of with both. Obviously, Aurorus as an ice hits super effective, unless it's a mud boy, then that is neutral. Last one, electric buff Bellybolt. So Bellybolt, look at those wins. Like, I was actually surprised I put it in. Obviously, ground, Gliscor, Zygarde, ground, resisting all the electric. So you need something for ground. I put in Drifblim because it is a flyer and it has an ice move. And I put in Virizion because it is a grass Pokemon. So there is your grass. There is your ground coverage. And then, yeah, Bellybolt. I actually think it has like a buff Thundershock and then Parabolic Charge, which got buffed last season. So it's a Pokemon that it only has electric moves, so you need to cover all that, sort of like your ground and dragon weakness, which you can kind of get by on Drifblim, maybe Virizion with Stone Edge for the dragons. But yeah, those are some buff Pokemon. Let me know in the comments below. I'm really struggling with this. I assume that majority of you will be playing Fantasy Cup, even though there's only 3 typings. I'll put that team out this morning first and this one out in the afternoon, because I was looking at when I do these top teams, this is just more for the analytical side of why I put them out and what they do for the channel. And it gives me a gauge on what you guys are interested in, because I will know just based on the views how many people are interested in each league. So it gives me an idea of like, I can look at the views and know which ones I should focus on for the remainder of the week. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is very search heavy. So, you get like an average, I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, you had Beyond the Hype with Starmie, 5,600 views. Steelix, 3,500. Arctibax, Ice Fang, 4,300. And these new Great League teams, 14,700. But even Fantasy Cup, which was on last week, which I just like rehashed old teams, 10,800. And that is actually quite higher than I expected it to be. So my guess, knowing how Ultra League usually gets like half of the Great League, if that, my guess is that the majority of people will play Fantasy Cup, even though it is very, very limited. There's only like 10 to 12 usable Pokemon. Whereas in this one, I can find 10 to 12 usable safe swaps, honestly. I kind of already mentioned all the ones on the top list. Like if I search by switches for Alligator, everything I said, for Alligator, Primeape, Drapion, Weezing, there's Walring on this, there's Typhlosion on this, there's Drifblim on this. So these are all like very usable Pokemon. And then when you go down to like even just any overall Pokemon in the 50s and 60s, you got Poliwrath is still usable at 62. Skuntank at 64. Shadow Zapdos I love using with the now buffed Thundershock at 68. Goodra at 60. There's so many usable Pokemon, even probably in like the 90s and 100s. 93 is Umbreon. You're getting kind of a little sketch in the hundreds, but you can go down to like 80s and 90s and have very, very usable Pokemon in the Ultra League. If you go past like 20, if you go past 20 in the Fantasy Cup, you're now into like Mawile, Togedemaru. Some of these are usable. Sandslash and Ferrothorn are usable. But yeah, once you get to 30, Salamence, Magneton, Carbink, like these are not usable Pokemon in this league. So you basically only have like 20 to 25 usable Pokemon. And there's a lot of doubles on this. So it's probably like 20 usable Pokemon in Fantasy Cup. Probably like 60 to 70 usable Pokemon in the Ultra League. But the majority of people will play Fantasy Cup because it is way more accessible than it is to get half these Pokemon here, right? Just look at the list. Let's just take this off. I know I'm just kind of talking now, but welcome to the channel. Let's just look at these top Pokemon. So Zygarde, which is insane to get, but outside of Zygarde, you have, look at the XLs. Count the XLs on here. out of the 20, some are doubles, I'm aware of that, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 XLs and 1 Zygarde in the top 20. And then the ones that aren't XLs or Zygarde, you have Legacy Move on for Alligator at 1. You have Giratina, which is a legendary. You have for Alligator again, which is Legacy Move. You have Cobalion, which is a legendary. You have Regirock, which is a legendary. You have Cresselia, which is a legendary, right? So, wow, Aurorus. Aurorus and Florges are like the 2 Pokemon that don't have a Legacy Move and are an XL and not legendary. And that's why people do not play this league, right? Very obvious in the top 20. There are 2 Pokemon in the top 20 that are not legendary, Legacy Move, or XL'd. And that does not make this accessible for most people, which is why the majority of people will play Fantasy Cup, even though it is limited and not fantastic. But we'll play it anyways. So, benefit to me, I called out Niantic this morning for being just lazy and repeating a league 2 weeks in because they can't think of a new league. But it has been helpful for me. I haven't filmed any yet, but I can film 1 or 2 in advance because I'm going to play 1 top team, and I've had viewers submit their Fantasy Cup already. So being able to like get ahead on videos already for next week is going to be very helpful, especially that I'm going to Toronto for the Toronto Regionals. So if you are at the Toronto Regional, come say hi. We'll see how it goes. I had no expectations for my first Toronto Regional two times ago, and I went 0-2. And then I was like, okay, please, this second regional, which was last year, please let me just win 1 match. I just want to win 1 match. And then I won 4 matches in a row. And I got to the Group A winners final against J-Jan, who beat me, and he won the whole tournament. So I really have no idea what my expectations are this season. I don't want to get skunked, but maybe I don't think I'll do as well as I did last year. Just seemed like a fluke. So I'll probably just hopefully get like 1 or 2 wins is my goal. But if you see me there, say hi. And if we get kicked out early, I know there's an event across the street for the raid event that's going on. So I will go jump over there if I get kicked, if I lose. So anyways, that's it. That's enough rambling. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.